Hi, everybody. Today for Writers Workshop, we are going to be working on looking at some mentor texts to see how real authors create informational text and the things that they use within informational text to help teach readers. Those things are called nonfiction text features. So, today, we're going to be exploring the informational text manatees. Now, let's think about how I know that this is definitely going to be a nonfiction text. Nonfiction and informational, they mean the same thing. So you might hear me say nonfiction, you might hear me say informational, they mean the same. Okay. We can see right away that this is a topic that we might be learning information about. Manatees are a real thing, right? They're not a made up thing. We see this photograph instead of like a cartoon. So this gives me an idea that maybe this is going to be informational. And right away, I see National Geographic. And I bet a lot of you know that National Geographic is a writing company and they also make shows that are made to teach people, usually about scientific things. And today it's going to be about the animal manatees. So let's go ahead and do some exploring. So, right away, the nonfiction text feature that I see is a title, right? All nonfiction books have titles. When I go to this first page, I see these big, bold words that really stand out, and it says, "Who am I?" I want you to think to yourself from what you know from first and second grade, what is this nonfiction text feature called? When I have this big, bold words that come up before a paragraph, what is this called? Have you remembered? This is called a heading. So when we have these big bold words above a paragraph, it's called a heading. And this one says, "Who am I? I have whiskers, but I am not a cat. I nibble on grass, but I am not a cow. I have gray wrinkled skin, but I am not an elephant. Who am I? A manatee." And there's a nice photograph of a manatee. So there's our introduction. Mighty manatees. So again, here is a heading. So mighty manatees. We know we're going to learn something about manatees, maybe how they're mighty. Sometimes that means like big. Let's see. Right away, I'm noticing this photograph. Informational books usually have photographs rather than cartoons or drawings. And I'm seeing down here, manatees often rest in groups. This little blurb is telling me something about the picture. Do you remember what this little blurb is called in an informational book? This is called a caption. Captions tell more about the picture. Okay. All right. Let's read this little paragraph. Manatees are mammals that live in the water. They are sometimes called sea cows. Why? Manatees are gentle and they move slowly like cows. They also graze on seagrass, just like cows eat grass. Okay. I'm also noticing this box. It says water words. Mammal, an animal that has a backbone and is warm blooded. It feeds its babies milk. Graze, to feed in an area covered with grasses. Okay. So these words, what is this called, boys and girls, when you have a vocabulary word with a definition? What is that called? Usually we'll find these words often in the back of the book as well. You might be thinking when it's in the back of the book, it's called a glossary, right? When it's in the back of the book. When we put them right throughout here, we're just defining the vocabulary. So we're seeing vocabulary, words that might be unknown to us, and the definition. All right. So far already, I've found a lot of nonfiction text features: the title, heading, caption, photographs, vocabulary, definitions. Now, not all nonfictions have this one. This is just kind of a fun National Geographic kids. Where do manatees keep their money? And the answer is in the riverbank. So some might have like a little joke, but not all. Definitely not all. Okay. Manatees are big. They are usually about 10 feet long. That sounds like a fact, right? That's a number fact. That's as long as two kids' bikes lined up end to end. So what the author did here, boys and girls, is using a comparison. See how these bikes are lined end to end? It's the same size as a manatee. So the author wants you to see, like, you might have never seen a manatee, but I bet you know what two bikes lined up end to end is like. That's called a comparison, when we compare two different photographs like this. Manatees are heavy too. Most adult manatees weigh about 1,000 pounds. That's the weight of about 21 second graders. Okay, boys and girls, that's another comparison. The author is making you think about something you know, like, I know about what a second grader would weigh. Now put 21 of them together, and that's what a manatee weighs. So the author is using comparison to help you think about how much a manatee weighs. I'm already thinking that as authors of your informational text, when you write yours, you're going to be coming up with so many ideas about what informational authors do. Let's look at let's go back and look at what are the things we've already seen. Informational authors give their writing a title. Informational authors give their writing headings. They have photographs. They often have vocabulary words and definitions. They usually have captions with their pictures. They often use comparisons. Let's go a page further and see what we've got here. Super swimmers. Now, that heading, boys and girls, usually the heading is telling me something about what's going to happen on the page. Remember yesterday in reading when we talked about how headings usually give you an idea of the main idea? So I think we're going to find out that manatees are really good swimmers. Let's see. Manatees can move their large bodies gracefully through the water. They swim upside down and roll. They even do somersaults. And look at what the author did here. They wrote in parentheses how to say it. Somersaults. Cool. Manatees don't like water that is too deep. They like to stay in shallow water in oceans and rivers. They find food and warm water. So again, the author is giving us facts about manatees and where they swim, photographs of manatees, another photograph with a caption. A group of manatees swim in Crystal River, Florida, USA. Here's a little joke. Why are manatees so wrinkled? Because they do not use irons. Silly. All right, boys and girls, this page is really important as an informational writer because a lot of informational authors use this text feature in order to teach people who are reading. A manatee's body is built for living in the water. Now take a look at this. What do you notice here from first and second grade? What is this called? Are you thinking about it? What is this called? This is called a diagram. Did you get it? A diagram is where we're labeling the parts of something. And in this case, we're labeling the parts of the manatee's body. So we have the tail, and the author says it is large, flat, and round at the end. It moves up and down to power the manatee through the water. We have a label that says eyes. They are small, but manatees can see well, even in cloudy water. Nostrils. Manatees breathe air through these holes, but they close tightly underwater. We also have flippers and lips. So, boys and girls, the author here is making a diagram. They didn't do a drawing. What they did was took a photograph and labeled it. And each one of these labels teaches us more and more and more about a manatee. So nonfiction authors, they do more than just write paragraphs, don't they? They create headings, they make captions, they put in photographs, they have diagrams, they have vocabulary, they have bold words, they have definitions. Wow, they have comparison. Sometimes they even put in jokes. So, boys and girls, the reason that I showed you this today is because as you are working on being a nonfiction informational writer, you have to have a good example of what good nonfiction writing looks like. And this is a great example of how an author creates an informational book. Because remember, what are informational books made for? They are made to teach. This book is made to teach about manatees. Yes, it is entertaining if you want to learn about manatees, but like stories, fiction stories are just made to entertain. They're just for you to like read and enjoy. Books like this, though you may enjoy them, they also teach you things. So, as a writer, you have to know how these books tend to go so that when you write yours about your topic that you're an expert at, you're able to put these things in. Okay. We're going to work on that as we go. So I'm going to go ahead and go to your assignment for today. Today, you're not even going to write anything on your personal expert topic. We're going to get back to that next week. Today, I just want you to think about this. After watching this lesson, share 5 things that you learned from today's writing lesson about informational text features or about how informational books tend to go. So an example might be like, I noticed that informational books have headings. I noticed that in informational books, sometimes authors use diagrams with labels. I noticed that sometimes in nonfiction books, authors tell me a word I might not know and then tell me the definition of it. I noticed that sometimes there are photographs in informational books. I want you to share with me 5 things you learned in today's lesson about informational text. All right, I can't wait to see what you learned today.